Welcome to the Chicano Chronicles. I am Emiliano Villa. Today, we're going to talk about solutions. I want to thank you guys for, commenting, letting me know where we are. And it seems that a lot of us are ready to rock and roll. A lot of us are ready to hit the streets. A lot of us are ready to solve the problems and get going. If that's the case, I want to start today's show with solutions. How do we get out of our mire? How do we find our leaders that we need? How do we bring recognition to the issues that affect the Chicano, the Chicana? Well, the only way we're going to do that is, again, we've talked about it before, but today we're going to break it down. The solutions, right? And those solutions have to do with unity. They have to do with organization. White Americans have taught us. Native Americans have taught us. Asian Americans have taught us. The Jewish community has taught us. Organize, unify, buy from each other. Buy Chicano, buy Chicana. Embrace one another. That's the solution, because that's been our problem historically. It hasn't been the white man. It hasn't been all these things that people say, oh, this is what's hindering the minority, not the Chicano. The Chicano's own worst enemy is itself. We have become our own worst enemy. The division, the self-hatred, malinche. They apply those stigmatisms that are given to the Mexicano mañana. They apply. Chicanos tend to be some of the flakiest people I know. Tell you they'll be there and they won't be there. Oh, we're ready to rock and roll and you're not. So if you're ready to stand up, if we don't need to talk about the problems, if you already know what's hindering the Chicano, if you already know what's hindering the Chicana, then rise up. That's the number one. It's time to rise up. It's time to stand up. Time to wake up to our plight. But I think we know what our plight is. I think we know what the problems are. Now let's talk about solutions. And the solution, again, is to rise up, is to hit the calle, is to hit the streets. And so that's what we're going to do. So today, in terms of solutions, we're going to give those to you, but you're going to have to step up to the plate, Chicano. You're going to have to, if you say you're going to be there, you're going to have to be there. No more of this mañana. No more of this atrochimochi. No more Mexicanisms. But what are those? What are Mexicanisms, right? You have to understand that when Pancho Villa started the revolution, he couldn't get the Mexican peon to wake up. He couldn't get them to rise up for valid reasons. They were fighting an enemy that was powerful, had weaponry, had advanced weaponry at that time. So yeah, the peon doesn't want to go, unalive himself, kill himself. He doesn't want to get involved with something that he definitely is going to lose. So the peone, the Mexicano that was being subjugated by the Spaniards and subjugated by the French, and now America, they don't want to rise up. They don't want to wake up. They don't want to put their lives on the line. Not until a man named Emiliano Zapata came. And he was a man of the people, a man that the people can trust. You see, Pancho Villa, he had a little bit of stigma with him. You know, when Pancho Villa went into a new town or he went into a new ciudad, he wanted to get married with somebody. And usually they were young little Mexicanas. So he had issues. Emiliano Zapata didn't. Emiliano Zapata was for the man. He was for getting back the land that was taken from us. So when he stood up, the Mexicano realized this is the movement. This is the man we can follow. So him and Pancho Villa together started the revolution. So it took some time for the Mexican peon to wake up and grab his rake, grab his shovel, grab his pick, his pitchfork, and start the revolution that needed to be started. It's time for you to grab your pitchfork, Chicano. It's time for you to put on your walking shoes. It's time for you to join the revolution that we need to start in order to move forward. Now understand, Chicano, this is not a violent revolution. This is not Pancho Villa, Emiliano Zapata, because we don't have that no more. It's only going to hinder us. It's only going to kill us. And I don't want to kill no Chicanos, Chicanas. That's of the past. Today, our sword is the pen. Our shield is our voice. And so we need to start wielding our sword and our shield. But in order to do that, you need to become intellectually in tune. So that's what we're doing today. That's the solution that we're offering with the far goals. The near goals, the goals that are right before us, wake up, get out, get off the couch, get out of your house, open the door and see the sun, and march and hit the calle. That is the solution. That's going to bring recognition to our issues. But you need to wake up, Pione. You need to wake up, Mexicano. You need to wake up, Chicano. The time has come. So I'm loving the comments. I'm loving the poder, the power. You guys are making me feel that Chicanismo is just right around the corner, that we're ready to go. But don't tell me one thing and then do another. That's our problem. Being flaky. Saying mañana. Stop it already. So how are we going to get out of this? By doing it today. By standing up today. By making it happen today. So if you're ready, we have solutions. There are things that we're doing to get us out of the mire that we're in. So in terms of America's new slave culture, let me tell you what Mexicans did. Several years back, they decided they were not going to work for peanuts no more. You were not just going to go get them and, hey, we'll give you $20 a day to do this slave labor. That's slavery. To be able to go pick up a human being at a corner, in a store, in Home Depot's parking lot. That's the new slavery. And what white Republicans, mostly white Republicans, who despise these people, turn around and will be the ones who are paying them and making them come over to take these slave jobs. It's a contradiction to the third degree. It's perverted Christianity, which we'll get into in a second. But what the Mexicanos did is they decided they were going to unify. And about 2-3 years ago, they said, oh, we're not going to work for less than $10 an hour. Now it's 15. And it might be higher. But they unified. And they said, mijo, check this out. Don't get hired for less than $10. It was as easy as that. And if you guys don't get hired for $10, they can't go somewhere else and get another Mexicano to undercut you. That's commerce. That's America. You're able to do that in America. So we need to start doing it. We need to start organizing ourselves, creating our own little quasi-unions, right? Which is what the Home Depot workers did. So now you can't go over there and say, hey, I'll take 4 of you for $10 an hour. Can't do that. They expect, and again, it's not a living wage. They're still slaves. They're not being given health care. They're not being afforded workers' compensation. They're not giving Social Security. These benefits that us Chicanos, Americans, are used to getting. They're not allowed that. That's slavery. So let's break it down. In the Chicano Chronicles YouTube and Chicano Chronicles TikTok, we've given emails. We have Patreon now. And we're going to give you that information today. So today, opportunities.chronicles@gmail.com. So opportunities, what does that mean? Well, we're starting to move and shake. We're starting to do things for the Chicano. One of those things is Chicano cinema. So we need actors. We need actresses. But not just that. Chicano cinema is not just actors and actresses. It's producers, it's directors, it's writers. We need those, Chicano, Chicana. So the doors of opportunity are opening up to you today. But those doors don't work unless you walk through them. That opportunity doesn't work unless you use it. So we've been asking you already to go to opportunities.chronicles at gmail.com. Get involved in what we're doing. We want Chicanos in every city because we're going to be moving to every city and showing every Chicano city that is 98% Chicano and that is being run by puro gabachos and black people running your cities, manipulating your children's education, your children's schools. That's a solution. We need to take those. We never had them, so we can't take them back. We need to start filling those positions with Chicanos, Chicanas that know what a Chicano, Chicana is. Today, we got Latinos, Hispanics, Mexicanos filling these positions, and they don't know nothing about Chicano. They don't have any empathy towards Chicano issues. So it's easy for once a Latino becomes mayor of your city, they call themselves Latino because they're letting gabachos know, they're letting the white mainstream people know that they're going to be bought out. Oh, I'm calling myself Latino, letting you know, come and give me that envelope so that I can start running roughshod over my own people. That's Latino. That's Hispanic. And we're going to tell you stories about city councils that we had to take out. Why? Because they're paying white city managers more than the presidents of the United States. The attorneys that are the attorneys for our Chicano neighborhoods, they're white. And next thing you know, this whole council, this whole city administration is fighting against its people, stopping you from building schools in your city, in your communities. I'm going to tell you those stories so that you can know what's going on in your city, so you can rise up and you can take back your city or take over your city like we've never done before. Instead of white principals suspending your kids in record numbers, instead of white dean of students kicking your children out of school in record numbers, let's get some Chicanos in there that are going to work with these children, that are going to help them, that are going to find those ones that need to go to advanced education, that have the gift of intellectual capacity or intellectual fortitude. When a Chicano got intellectual fortitude, oh, they recognize them all right. And they do everything in their power to get them out of school, like they did me. If it was a Chicano, they would recognize the intellectual fortitude and they would do everything in their power, like white people and black people, to elevate them, to send them to advanced education. Let me tell you a secret, people. Let me tell you a big, huge secret that nobody's going to tell you. The black community, which is 13% of America's population, they have upwards of 30 plus historically black colleges and universities. Guess how many historically Chicano colleges and universities there are? Take a guess. 0. We're 17% of the American public, of the American population. 17%, and that's a low number. I'm thinking we're more like 19, 20%. Black people are 13%. We're nowhere near the White House. We have nowhere near the power that our black brothers and sisters have. Why? Because we can't unify. Because we can't organize. Because we tend to say mañana. We tend to do things a trochimochi. Not no more. Get involved. Politics. We're going to teach you all that. How to recall and get people out of there that are hindering your community. Police forces that are killing your children. We need to get them out of there. If there's a chief of police in your city and you got cops running rampant and abusing people and murdering people in broad daylight and your chief backs them up and your mayor backs them up, you need to get them out. Get them out and put somebody in there that identifies with Chicanismo. Let's start waking up, Chicano. It's not that hard. So solutions? We have solutions. Interns.chronicles@gmail.com. If you want to learn to be a grip, if you want to learn to be a director, if you have passion in your heart to be an actor, actress, intern.chronicles@gmail.com. Get involved. Learn a profession in Hollywood. You want to learn to be a politician? Interns.chronicles@gmail.com. So now that's opportunity to get involved in the movement, interns to get involved in Chicano cinema or other jobs that we have. Because white America is going to wake up someday and they're going to say, okay, you want a place in society? Where's your politicians at? We need to bring politicians to them. We can't just sit here and say, well, no, we need people to step up. We need you to become leaders. And like I've been asking you for 1 year, 2 years now? We need city administrators. We need lawyers. If you're a Chicano lawyer, give back to the community and volunteer to give back. It's not that hard. And the other one is volunteer. So understand, we need volunteers to work in the Chicano Chronicles. We need graphic artists to work in the Chicano Chronicles. We need people in the entertainment industry, Chicano, Chicana, to work at the Chicano Chronicles, to do our YouTube, to do the TikTok, to do our platforms. But also we need people to fill our spots on Chicano cinema. We are in pre-production for The Children of 1941, and we're about to get in production, but we're not going to do it without Chicanos. Are we going? Yeah, we're going, but we need more. There's already, the second feature film is already on the books. It's already on the table. So we're moving and shaking here at the Chicano Chronicles, Chicano. It's time for you to get involved, and that's the solution. We have the mechanism. We have the vehicle. We just need you to get in and drive, to sit shotgun. That's all we need. So part of the downside of Chicano Chronicles is there's no excuse no more. You can't complain that you didn't have opportunity. You can't complain that the doors are not open. You can't complain that nobody called you and said, hey, you want to be an actor, actress? You want to be a director? You want to be a producer? You want to be an investor? You want to start making money in Hollywood? Investor 1941 at gmail.com. Investor 1941 is to invest in the Chicano Chronicle or Chicano cinema, our first feature film. And that's a psychological thriller, Children 1941. We need Chicanos to invest in what we're doing, not just physically, but monetarily. If you don't have the money, I understand that. I understand Chicanos are slaves. I understand we don't have millionaires, billionaires running rampant in our community. I understand that. We don't have Chicanos that are millionaires ready to give back. You think Salma Hayek's going to send us a check? You think Eva Longoria is going to send us a check? You think Paul Rodriguez, George Lopez, Mario Lopez? You think these people are going to touch base with the Chicano Chronicles and say, hey, we want to help you and we want to... They've been here for 20, 30 years and they haven't helped us. And now you think they're going to reach out and, oh, well, Chicano Chronicles, you guys are the Chicano. No, not at all. So it's going to take us, Chicano. So me as a business owner, I'm funding all of this. But that's not going to last long. Especially when we start making noise and we start accomplishing things. Guess what mainstream America is going to do? They're going to come after me legally. And so right now I'm laid bare. We don't have no lawyers in the Chicano community. But if you are a lawyer in the Chicano community, volunteer. Get involved in what we're doing. Part of the big problem with Chicanismo is we don't get jurisprudence. The justice system is not for us. It's against us. And part of that is we don't have lawyers, attorneys. Like we don't have doctors. So we're victim to a lot of things in America. Legal, health, education. We're victims of all that. But because we don't have those resources. Or we do have them, but those people that are in positions to help us are not giving back. That's the problem with Chicanismo. We don't give back to our community, to our chavalos. But again, that's the legacy that Moctezuma left us, right? He couldn't sacrifice back then. What makes us think we're going to sacrifice now? But that's why we become America's new slave culture. It's all laid out bare. So it's time for the Chicano to get involved. But you're telling me to let's go. You're the one that's telling me you're ready. How do I get involved? What do we do next? This is what you do next. Is you reach out to the Chicano Chronicles and you get ready to move and shake and work and invest. Because guess what? Hollywood's the money-making industry. I don't know if you know that, but Hollywood is billions of dollars, trillions of dollars. We're not allowed that commerce until today. But if we open that door and nobody goes in it, it was for naught. It was futile. The Chicano has become its own worst enemy in a lot of ways. One of those is mañana. There's something we call our sons, right? And this is prevalent. And you're going to identify it too. Huevone. A huevone. What is that? Well, our mothers tend to baby us a lot. And we become mama's boys. Pampered. Coddled. It's time for Chicanos to become those macho men that we hear so much about. Where are you at? We know you're being assaulted. We know how America's assaulting you right now with gangs. We know how America's assaulting you right now with mass incarceration, inopportunity. That's what I talk about as slave culture. And it's amazing that many of you are going through it, but you will deny that you're a slave. You will deny. And you will sit there and you will say, why are you crying, right? Because that's what Chicanos do, is we cry. That's a fallacy. But I'm going to speak out on behalf of the Chicano. How you interpret that, that's on you. How you react to it, that's on you. But understand, if you're not listening to me, Chicano, if you're not acting on what I'm saying, white people are. I'm scaring the crap out of white people. Because if this wakes us up, things are going to change. So solutions? We have the solutions. But now it's time for the Chicano to walk through that door. It's time for the Chicano to become its own solution instead of its own worst enemy. If you're ready, Chicano, so am I. If you're not, stay tuned. Because I'm going to keep telling you why you need to get involved. Why you need to wake up. And you need to wake up today.
Coming out slowly. There's going to be another election. And when it's all over, if they say Trump lost,
he will not lose.
Well,
It's in God's hand, and he's going to straighten this country out.
I'm a Christian, and I just know that there's a lot more to this than what they're showing us out there now. I think God's behind everything we do here, and I mean that sincerely.
You think President Trump is a man of God?
Well, I would like to think he is. I feel he is.
America has perverted Christianity. European Americans today despise their neighbor. When Jesus Christ tells us to love thy neighbor, today Americans, especially European Americans, white Americans, hate their neighbor to a point where they villainize, vilify, make illegal human beings that are supposed to be their brothers, right? Not today. If you look at the teachings of Jesus Christ through a book called the Bible, and specifically the teachings of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, those four men that walked with Jesus Christ, those were his disciples. So if you want to learn about Jesus Christ, if you want to know who Jesus Christ was, if you want to really, really get a grip on Christianity, read those four books. They'll tell you who Jesus Christ was. They'll tell you his teachings. And one of his main teachings was love thy neighbor as you would love yourself. America doesn't do that today. That's not part of what America is. America's not Christian. One nation under God? That's a fallacy. And I think in our next episode, we'll talk about the doctrines of America and how they lie, how they're fallacies. This is not the land of the free. Never was. One nation under God never was. How can you be a nation under God when you own, sell, rape, murder black people, black human beings? So we have to start waking up to what America really is. And again, it's not America. It's white Americans. Because black Americans really don't think like that. As a matter of fact, they understand about immigration because they were brought over in ships, right? You got to know about the Atlantic slave trade and our black brothers and sisters and how they were brought over here. Our Native American brothers, they don't believe in Jesus Christ, but they never created genocide on a people. Chicanos, we are the most Christian people in the face of the earth. Mexicanos, poor as they are funding the Vatican. They'll give their last centavos to the church, to the Catholic Church, instead of feeding their kids. That's how fanatical they are. But that's the legacy that Moctezuma left us, right? The legacy of religious fanaticism, because he thought Cortez was Quetzalcoatl coming back to sit under his canopy on his throne, right? So just as fanatical as Moctezuma was, you look at Chicanos, Mexicanos, Latinos, Hispanics, and they're religious fanatics on a religion that is not even theirs. A religion that was forced on them. You know the history, right? Spaniards come into Tenochtitlan and give you the decision. If you're a Christian, you can live. If you don't claim Christianity, they lop your head off. That's how Christianity came to our people. It wasn't by choice. That's European Christianity. But let's get into that. Let me tell you about Christianity. European American Christianity. European Christianity. You see, Europeans perverted Christianity a long time ago with something called the Crusades, with something called the King James Version. King James, through Europe, went across the world, sent his knights called the Templar Knights on a crusade to go across the world and covet a religion from a people that they knew almost nothing of. So what did King James do? What did Europe do? They went across the world to murder these people by the millions, these Muslims, these Jews. And they went over there and they took their religion. And then they got the Bible, brought it back to England, and allowed King James to interpret it. A monarchy. Everything Jesus Christ was against. And these Europeans went to Jerusalem, did some pretty horrible things, stole its religion, coveted its religion. One of the 10 commandments, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods nor his wife. And the Templar Knights did all of that, to where eventually they became the hunted and the criminals because they were doing such bad things as Christians, warriors of God, right? That's European Christianity. But let's move forward. Do you know who King James was? He was a pervert. He was homosexual. He was a pedophile. And he interpreted the Bible. And that's what we as Americans learn from, is the King James Version. And that's why Christianity is so perverted in America today. We don't love our neighbor. We're not our brother's keeper. We are the antithesis of Christianity, actually. We are the Antichrist. Today in America, it's anti-Christianity. It's not Christianity. This is another fallacy of Christians, right? Is we believe the devil is a physical human being walking around with scales and a long tail, pointy tail, right? That's how should I say, juvenile in our Christianity we are. We believe that. We believe that God is a physical being sitting on a throne up in heaven somewhere. We believe that, like children. Imagine the ignorance. But we also believe that the Antichrist is a man. We also believe that the Antichrist is a physical human being or a creature or a demon. No. The Antichrist is a perversion of Christianity. The Antichrist is a movement of non-Christianity. So when you see people talking about we're Christians, but we despise Mexicans because they're illegal, those are not Christians. Let me tell you how you can find out, and if you're a Christian, how you can be the best Christian you can be. And it's done by something called prayer. And what the Bible tells us is to pray so that, what does God say? Knock on the door and I'll answer. All you have to do is knock. And the way you knock is by prayer. And when you pray, God gives you powers. And those powers is the ability to identify the devil, to identify evil, to identify anti-Christianity. That's what prayer does for you when you pray to the right God, our Heavenly Father. We'll get into Christianity a little deeper along the Chicano Chronicles because it's not something that I like to delve in because I'm not going to lead anybody astray. But at some point, I'm going to tell you what I believe about Christianity and about our Heavenly Father and about the religion of Chicanos. It wasn't Christianity. Our religious beliefs, not built on Christianity. It was Christianity that crushed us and killed us. Or should I say, anti-Christianity. Because you have to understand that when the Spaniards came to Tenochtitlan in 1519, the devil had already taken over Christianity in Europe through something called the Spanish Inquisition. Research it, Chicano. Find out what that was. But let me give you a little bit of explanation of what the Spanish Inquisition was. You see, before the Spaniards came to Tenochtitlan and ran roughshod over the Mexicano with biological warfare, they already had run rampant all over Europe through something called the Spanish Inquisition. And what they did is, if you had gold, if you had power, if you had land, the Catholic Church wanted it. And what they did is they would send one of their torquemadas or one of their cardinals to name you as a heretic and claim that you're involved in heresy. And the only way that you can be cleansed of heresy or from being a heretic was to be tortured. So you have to understand that Spain was already torturing its own people. They're already murdering their own people in record numbers before they came to Tenochtitlan, before they came and decimated the Chicano culture with biological warfare. And we've talked about that before. So when they came to Mexica, we were defenseless. We didn't even know what they were doing until it was done, until we laid victim. Then we knew. So anti-Christianity is not a person. It's not a human being. It's not an entity. It's not a demon. It's not, some spirit. It's the perversion of Christianity. It's saying with one side of your face that you love your neighbor, and then out the other side of your face, making laws to make your neighbor illegal. That's perverted Christianity. When Cain killed Abel, what did God ask him? Where's your brother? Cain, where's your brother? And what did Cain tell him? I'm not my brother's keeper. Why are you asking me? European Americans are nowhere near their brother's keeper. That's perverted Christianity. So in order to identify perverted Christianity, to recognize the devil, what does the Bible tell us about the devil, right? The devil is a liar. The devil is a liar. If you're a Christian, your pastor has probably preached on that thousands of times. The devil is a liar. Donald Trump is the most lying president in the history of presidents in America. The devil is a liar. And Donald Trump has lied in office tens of thousands of times. It's documented. And yet Republicans, white Republicans in America today can't identify it. They can't identify the evil that's happening in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. I mean, racism is prevalent in politics today in America. Why? Because we've talked about it. Why people are losing their power. And they're doing everything, both left and right, Democratic and Republican, to continue that white superiority, that white power. So the Democrats push us away as the Republicans, give us a couple of tacos and you see the result. And if you don't recognize that, you're not too much of a Christian. And we're going to end it with this. I want you to watch this clip of a well-known Christian evangelical preacher. His name is Kenneth Copeland.
Preached face to face personally with 125,000 people.
Do you ever use your private jets to go visit your vacation homes, for example?
Yes, I do that.
Okay. Again, getting back to the comment, you said that you don't like to fly commercial because you don't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did. We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but principalities and powers.
Can you explain what you meant by that term then? Just explain, because it's really simple. You said you didn't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. What did you mean?
Well, let me ask.
If you can imagine, that man is a man of God. He calls himself a man of God. Look at his face. You don't need to be a hyper Christian to recognize the devil in that man's face. The way he talks. Jesus Christ, it's funny because one of the big arguments in religion a long time ago was, did Jesus Christ own the clothes that he wore? That's how poor he was. Did Jesus Christ own the clothes that he wore was the big conversation back then. So poverty, dropping material things, because what did Jesus Christ tell his disciples? You drop everything. Your job, your money, your family, everything to follow me. Today, the Republican Party is nowhere near about poverty. And if you don't identify that, you're not a Christian, or you're a perverted Christian. Jesus Christ was for the poor. He's for the downtrodden. He was for the sick, infirm. He was everything that is contrary or antithetical to the Republican Party. Yet they're the ones that claim religion and Christianity. The hypocrisy is through the roof in America today. Perverted Christianity in America today, through the roof. And if you can identify it, well, now you can. Now, if you deny it, you're what we call the devil's minion, right? You're a minion. In other words, you like spreading lies and the devil's work. And if you look at the Republican Party and you see when they're interviewed, these people are, the worst. So Kenneth Copeland, that should tell you where America is, or where I should say, well, the unfortunate fact is you see Kenneth Copelands in every culture. There's black Kenneth Copelands coming out of the woodwork. Chicano Kenneth Copelands, I don't see too many of them, but there's some Mexicanos that are pretty bad Kenneth Copelands. But nobody compares to Kenneth Copeland and those other preachers and priests. I would like you to go and do a little, and we might do something about that, right? We might show you a montage on Jimmy Swaggart when he cried when they caught him. All these Christians that are supposed to leading their flocks and they end up showing their true colors. And the great majority of these big names are white men that run roughshod over Christianity because they've been doing that for centuries. So understand, European Christianity, since its inception, was done unchristian-like. They went against every teaching of Christianity to covet that religion and bring it back to England so that King James, after he got done with whatever he was doing with whoever he was doing it with, can now interpret the Bible the way he sees fit. And there are other fallacies that happened along the way in terms of the Bible and Christian religion. It changed. Mankind perverted Christianity. If you want to identify what perverted Christianity is, It's called prayer. And you pray to the Heavenly Father because there's one Heavenly Father, right? And he's not a Christian God. He's not a Muslim God. He's not Buddha. If there's a God, he's the God of everyone, all human beings. He's the God of every living creature, not of denomination. That's the reality. And that's who I pray to, is my Heavenly Father. But is Jesus Christ my Heavenly Father? Is Jesus Christ my religion? He was. As a matter of fact, I'm having a hard time practicing what I preach. And I know that Christianity is not my religion, but I've been a Christian for so long. Christianity was embedded in me by my mother and father, the teachers that I was taught by, and we all are taught by our parents. So those teachings we take to heart. And unfortunately, our parents were all Christian. They were made to be. And nobody ever stood up and finally told us that Christianity is not our religion. It was forced on us. So it's time to step back and start taking a good look at your religion, Chicano, Chicana, because it was meant to subjugate you. But that's a whole other conversation. So when I tell you that we're not going to point the finger at the white man, I say it with a grain of salt, because the white man has done so much to indigenous people that the effects of those actions, the effects are they're gonna be around for a while. The things that Europeans did to indigenous people, black, red, brown, they're long lasting. So it's gonna take us some time to overcome that. So when I say we're not gonna point the finger at the white man, we are, but we're also gonna point the finger at ourselves. Because no people can be destroyed unless they are already divided. And the Chicano, Mexicano, Latino, Hispanic, we don't even got to talk about that. We already know how divided we are. Our subjugation is not just by white men. It's white men getting our own brothers and sisters to help subjugate us. That, again, we talked about that in our first episode. So let me tell you about an experience I had when I started soliciting my script back in the early 90s, late 90s, until they stole my Dark Angel script and I stopped soliciting my ideas altogether. This was in 2000. This was 24 years ago that I had to make the decision to stop soliciting my ideas, or these white movie makers are going to steal them. And nothing you can't do. The California Attorneys for the Arts, it's an organization that still exists today. They called me and they said, or I called them, and they told me I would have to be in the room, in a Fox News room or a Fox Studios room with James Cameron, the person that stole my idea and sold it to him, and all the producers of. I could be in the room while they're stealing my script, and I still wouldn't be able to win that case, they told me. This is how powerful Fox was back then. So yeah, I put all my idea. I didn't stop writing. I can't. That's impossible. I can't stop writing poetry. I can't stop writing short stories. I can't stop writing scripts. But I stopped soliciting them until today, because Dark Angel was the only story I was going to allow them to take, which I don't doubt that, they've taken some other ideas from me. Let me give you a story of what happened when I decided that the white Hollywood elite would not embrace us, but let's see if Chicano, the Chicanos in Hollywood, because there were some producers in Hollywood, again, we know who they are, right? But there was one in particular, his name was Moctezuma Esparza. And he's running these theaters right here in Norwalk, these Chicano theaters, right? But let me tell you about Moctezuma Esparza. He had a production company named Esparza Cats Production. So he was embraced by a white producer, and they worked together, and I would imagine they produced some stories. I don't know what they are. I don't know the award-winning movies that Moctezuma Esparza created as a Chicano producer. Now, understand, Moctezuma Esparza was supposed to be one of the Chicano leaders. He was supposed to be deep in the movement. So he should have understood how deep we needed, or how much we needed to be involved in Hollywood. which I guess that's why he got involved, but he didn't get involved for that. You see, Moctezuma Esparza is one of those Chicanos that will sell out anybody to get his spot. And so let me tell you the experience I had with him. So back in the 80s and 90s, NBC, ABC, CBS, as they were shutting us out of Hollywood, they would create these programs, right, to try to show diversity. Oh, we're going to have this diversity inclusion back in the 80s and 90s to show, we're trying to find you Mexicans that can tell a story. No, they weren't. We're trying to get you black people to get involved. No, they weren't. It was until the late 80s, the 90s, that we started seeing black entertainers and writers and producers when the black leaders stood up and sacrificed. When they said, we're not gonna take the jobs that you give us because you want a black man to represent your company. So you're gonna give us an executive position, and all we're gonna do is sit there as eye candy, without the ability to make any decisions to hire anybody, fire anybody, create our own content. The black people said, Quincy Jones, to be specific, said, no, we're not going to do that. If you're going to hire me, you're going to allow me to create my own content. Next thing you know, we got BET. Next thing you know, you got black shows coming out of the woodworks, black movies, Will Smith, all of these black artists that we see today. But in order for that to happen, they had to close the door to some brown people. And check out this story. So I meet Moctezuma Esparza at one of these diversity get-togethers, right? These, and they're jokes, because they were happening 30, 40 years ago. Where's the results out of all those, and not just NBC, I mean, all of them, HBO, all of them, were, we got to get these Latinos in here to create Latino content. But when you found somebody that knew how to write something, you didn't hire him. You stole his work. You produced it without him. That was part of the program. Not just we're not going to find the ones that know how to create and the good filmmakers. We're going to find them, identify them, and then we're going to hide them out somewhere or just ignore them, alienate them. While we bring every black person that has just the minutest idea of a show, bring them in here and give them opportunity. White America made that decision in Hollywood, a physical, distinct decision. And we know when it happened. But in order for that opportunity to exist for blacks, it wasn't whites they were going to sacrifice. It wasn't white writers that were having to scoot over. It was brown writers. It was brown filmmakers. But check this story out. So I go to Esparza Cats. I meet Moctezuma. I tell him I'm a filmmaker. I'm a writer. I got a story. I'd like, come to my production office and speak to us and let's see what we could do. So I got my treatment. It was a treatment at that time, Dark Angel. And I took it. And when I went to his office, I met with a producer named Ligia Villalobos. Me and her sat in a room. I pitched my idea to her, Dark Angel. Now, unfortunately, part of Hollywood is that a lot of people get positions where they wouldn't recognize a good movie if it hit them upside the head. There are a lot of white producers. They did a study, and they got an award-winning script. They changed the name, they changed it around a little bit, and they sent it to studios to see if they would accept it. Nobody accepted it. An award-winning movie already. How I didn't identify what it was, I don't know. But when you're reading scripts and watching a movie are two different things. If you're not a good reader and you can't identify or envision a scene or a sequence, how are you going to know if it's a good movie or not? So even in Hollywood, it's hard to find good producers that recognize good material. There are some, not in the Chicano community. So when I sat across from Ligia Villalobos and I pitched my movie, she couldn't identify a good movie. Like again, Fox identified The Dark Angel as a very good, viable series. The unfortunate fact where they're so racist, we know who they are. They were not going to give an opportunity to a brown Mexican. And I have another story about that I'm going to tell you too, about Fox News, who they will hire and what they will hire us for. Not to make movies though. So they were going to hire me to go and produce and filmmake and write this episodic drama that they found so enticing, right? So they just took it from me. But Ligia Villalobos and Moctezuma Esparza, they couldn't identify talent. They couldn't identify what a good story was, or a good movie, or a good vehicle. They couldn't realize how much that Dark Angel show would have done for Chicanos, Chicanas in America then. So it's our fault too. It's not just the white, Hollywood elite. It's Moctezuma. He was in a position to make change, and he didn't, because he was only thinking about himself. Moctezuma Esparza couldn't identify it. Neither could Ligia Villalobos, but listen what they told me, okay? So I'm sitting in the room with Ligia Villalobos, and instead of giving me critique on my script or my idea, right, she turned around and she said, "Now is not our time." She told me this verbatim. I'm not going to mince words. She looked at me sitting across from her and she said, "Now is not our time." And I looked at her. I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Now it's time for African Americans." So everybody got the note. Everybody got the memo. Open the doors of opportunity for black people, but not for brown people. Even brown producers, Esparza Katz Productions, even that production company was not allowed to give opportunity to their own people. And I guess Mr. Katz had Mr. Esparza, we can imagine that relationship, that dynamic. Yeah, Esparza Katz, I don't think Esparza was the front runner on that production company. So he was being told what to do. And what he was told is, don't open the doors to brown people like you, Moctezuma. You need to ruin brown people. You need to kill their spirit. You need to kill their dreams. You need to dismantle their American dream. And then give us all his goodies so that we can produce it. So Ligia Villalobos sat across from me and she said, "It's not our time. It's time for the African American." And I guess she's still sitting in that chair with Moctezuma and all these other Chicanos, George Lopez and Cheech Marin, telling other Chicanos and Chicanas, it's not your time. Well, when is our time? When is it going to be time for Chicanos to tell our stories? Moctezuma Esparza, George Lopez, Mario Lopez, Cheech Marin, all you actors that we invested in, that we gave time to, that you don't want to give us back, that you're not giving back to the community. Try to get in touch with these gentlemen. Try to get in touch with Mario Lopez. See who his representation is. See who represents Mario Lopez, the Chicano. They're not Chicanos. So Moctezuma Esparza, he was there to close the doors on the Chicano, not open them. He was there to hinder our progress. He wasn't there to move it forward. But that's typical with all the Chicanos. So that's my story. That's my experience with Chicano producers in Hollywood. And there's going to be more. I'm going to tell you more stories like that. Because I've been trying to become a screenwriter, a filmmaker for a long time. Although I don't show nobody my scripts no more. Well, once in a while, I gotta go out and I gotta see if the doors are open. They're not, even today. And I'm gonna tell you stories about today, of who I'm dealing with today, and it's the same thing. But understand, Chicano, we wouldn't be where we're at today if we didn't have our own people doing it to us. And so this story should give you an idea specifically of how Chicanos ruin Chicanos' lives, how they use Chicanos. And Moctezuma's a Chicano. He changed his name from Eddie Esparza to, that's not his real name, I'm being facetious, but he changed his name from whatever to become Moctezuma because he wanted to represent, but he didn't. He sold us out, just like all the other Chicano leaders did. That's why you don't see no Chicano leaders like Al Sharpton. That's why you don't see no Chicano leaders like Jesse Jackson. We need those leaders. And this is what we have to do, is we have to start holding our Chicanos to the fire, their feet to the fire. So start calling George Lopez. Start calling Cheech Marine. If you know any producers that are Chicano, that are looking for Chicano material, start calling them and tell them there's Chicano cinema. If Paramount Studios is having an outreach, another outreach for all those Latinos, tell them there's a Chicano that got viable stories, award-winning, that you guys will want to steal, that you guys will want to plagiarize. But instead of plagiarizing his ideas, instead of stealing his stories and his content, how about open the doors to him? How about open the doors for us? Because we have power. It's just when Esparza is given a production company, they set him with a Katz. They make sure that Mr. Esparza is not by himself and he's not doing things on his own. He got Mr. Katz there to police him, to make sure that Mr. Esparza is not being too brown. He's not being too Chicano, because it wasn't our time. And Mr. Esparza knew it, and so did Ligia Villalobos. And so they were there to do a job. And that job was to silence my voice. And they did a hell of a job. So why a Chicano movement, right? So why wake up? No problems here. We all got jobs. We all work 20 hours a day. We're all feeding our kids. Life is good, right? We got a beer. We got a beer. We have a beer after work. We have a taco when we go home. That's enough, isn't it? Why wake up? Why create this Chicano movement? You know, and understand, Chicano. This is prevalent. We fit the slave culture like a glove. They picked us because they weren't going to get no pushback. They knew the Pione, you couldn't wake up the Pione. They know our history better than you do, Chicano. They knew how hard it was for Mexicans to kick out Spain and France better than you do. If you're not listening to what I'm saying, Chicano, understand the Gaucho is. White people are. And they're going to defend against what I'm saying. Right now, all the mainstream media commenters and pundits, and we're talking the big hitters, Rachel Maddow, Sean Hannity, all of them, got somebody listening so that now they can combat what I'm saying. They're going to hear me. And now they're thinking of excuses. And now they're calling Moctezuma and they're saying, hey, they just said your name. We need you to say this. They're hearing what I'm saying because they think ahead. Chicanos, not so much. So Chicano, if you're not hearing me, understand somebody is. And if we don't stand up to create opportunity, to create enfranchisement for the Chicano, we have to stand up. One of the reasons is because mainstream media depicts Chicanos and Chicanas in the worst way. We're gonna have a show just dedicated to how we're depicted in cinema. The acting jobs that are given to our actors, even the big ones, even George Lopez. The acting jobs that are given to now actresses, they're given a little bit more love for obvious reasons. I say love in more ways than one. So why wake up? Everything's going peachy keen, right? Chicanos billionaires. Chicanos movie actors coming out of the woodwork. Chicano films just abounding. We can't stop those Chicano films from being produced, right? Why do we wake up? Why should we wake up? We're going to show you why you should wake up. Today, we're going to give you a good view of why Chicanos and Chicanas need to wake up today. You know who George Floyd was, right? George Floyd was suffocated by a white cop named Derek Chauvin, who kept his knee on his neck until he died. And so what I identified What you have to understand is that Nazi Germany, and again, I'm going to coin the phrase today, Nazi America. So Nazi Germany back in the 40s, what they wanted to do, one of the programs that they set up is they were trying to eliminate all their psychotic people, all their people with mental problems. They were going to eliminate them. They started a program to eliminate these people. If you were destitute, if you had mental issues, they wanted to eliminate you. And they created a program to do it. If you were a convict, if you were a perpetual lawbreaker, they were going to do away with you. They were going to eliminate you. And they had a program to do it. Today in Nazi America, European Americans want to do the same thing. I'm going to show you the correlation and the marriage between Nazi Germany and the men that were running that place, the correlation between Nazi Germany and Nazi America, and the men that are now running America. You have to understand that Donald Trump is an Austrian. In the Treaty of Versailles, one of those, how should I say it, one of those requirements, one of those laws was that Germans and Austrians could not get together no more. Because when Austrians and Germans get together, they want to murder people. They want to go to war. And now we have an Austrian in Donald Trump. You didn't know that, did you? Yeah, that's who's running America today. Men like him in the Republican Party. Anti-Christians. Hateful people. Liars. So, Nazi America, what they're doing today, the way they're killing crazy people, the way they're killing drug addicts, the way they're killing criminals, is they lay on them. Yeah. We see it over and over again. Cops laying on men, putting their knees on their neck, sitting on their back while they're in a prone position. And it's already been known that that's how you suffocate people, so they're using it. They're purposely, in my opinion, they're purposely killing these people, murdering them in broad daylight. But we're going to show you two incidents that happened to Chicanos, just like George Floyd. But because we don't get recognition, because we're considered animals, because nobody wants to cover what happens to a Chicano. And check this out, Chicano. I'm going to do an episode where I'm going to tell you that I tried to call Rachel Maddow. Numerous times since they started her show. When Rachel Maddow came out, I said, oh my gosh, MSNBC is going to create a left-wing propaganda machine that at least is going to give the least of us a voice. So right away, I'm calling Rachel Maddow. Do you know what a Chicano is? Yeah, we're America's news. We do those jobs. You say it all the time. We do those jobs that Americans will not do. You know who we are. And I soon realized that she's not there to give voice to everybody. Not everybody is an American to her. So I realized what left-wing propaganda is. It's silencing people. It's not saying things, right? Republicans and right-wing media, it's lying in what they say. Left-wing, it's what they don't say and how they keep people silenced. So I went to Rachel Maddow. I went to Lawrence O'Donnell. I went to all those NBC pundits that you see now today. Can you give a brown person a voice, a Chicano? They'll give a brown person a voice if they're Latino or Hispanic. If a Chicano's last name is Kumar, if your last name is Kumar and you claim to be Latina, we'll give you a voice. But because we know that Maria Kumar is not going to do nothing for the Chicano. So we wanted to talk about this a long time ago, but we don't have a voice. That's why the Chicano Chronicles is so necessary. That's why we need to wake up. That's why we need to march. Is because they're not going to give us a voice, and we need to start demanding that voice on these mainstream media stations, that they let everybody, Rachel Maddow will bring the most unchristian, evil, lying Republican so that they can give them a voice, But they won't give a democratic, liberal, progressive Chicano like us, they won't give us a voice. This is reality. So if we were allowed a voice, I would have told you about Nazi America a long time ago. I would have told you how Nazi Germany wanted to kill all their crazy people and drug addicts, and that's what America's doing today. But let's go to the video. I want you to see this video of a young man named Mario Gonzalez, and look at the evil. This is gonna burn you. It's gonna hurt, but we need to see this to know why we need to wake up. So this young man, his name is Mario Gonzalez, un Chicano Mexicano. And I want you to see what they did to him.
Yeah, it's okay, Mario.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to take care of you, okay?
No!
We're going to take care of you.
All right, there.
Okay.
There. There, thank you. There. She's lifting the body. There. There. There, I got it. Thank you. Thank you.
You good?
Thank you. There.
It's okay.
Thank you.
It's okay.
There.
What's your name?
Mario.
Mario. What's your last name, Mario?
Alberto.
Alberto?
Mario.
What's your birthday?
How did that feel? How did that feel, Chicano? How did that feel, Chicana? Stood on top of him, suffocated him. This man was as docile as it gets. Look at his voice. Look at the way he was talking. And these European Americans sat on him until he died. Murdered him in broad daylight. But if you don't believe that, let me give you a worst case scenario. So this next Chicanito, this next murder victim, his name is Joseph Perez. And these cops and now EMTs, white EMTs, ambulance, look at how they murdered him.
Uncuff this left one here. Yeah, we gotta just sit on that board. Let's get his feet down first, yeah? Alright. Once we get his feet secured, then we can work on his arms from there. Oh, the strap one too. Alright. Joseph, just relax, okay? Come on, buddy. This hand's sticking out a little bit if you want to try to get that cuff on. You better get that one. Or you get that leather cuff on his hand.
If you can imagine that, Chicano, Chicana, they didn't put their knee on his neck. They didn't just sit, they put a gurney on top of him. And they sat on the gurney, suffocated him, murdered him in broad daylight. And nobody said a word about it. You didn't hear about it. We heard about George Floyd. You've seen George Floyd 1,000 times because he was black. And America was going to give opportunity to black people. They were going to, America's going to make amends by all their racist malarkey that they did to black people. They're going to put them on camera. And the BLM movement's going to, and now BLM is $91 million. It worked like a charm for black people, right? But did they put Mr. Gonzalez on? Did they show us Mr. Perez? And these were, if I do say so myself, they were more egregious than George Floyd. But yet we didn't see nothing about it. We didn't hear nothing about it. Al Sharpton didn't come out and complain about that. Jesse Jackson didn't say nothing about them. Where's our Chicanos? Where's our Chicanas? Where's the Cesar Chavez Foundation? Where's the Dolores Huerta Foundation? Where's the spokesman for those foundations? This should give you an idea of why we should wake up. Don't wait till it happens to your child. Don't wait till it happens to your son. Don't wait till it happens to your daughter to wake up. If you're wondering why we should wake up, this should give you a good idea of why. It took Pancho Villa and Emilio Zapata some effort to wake up the Mexicano, the Mexican peone. It took them some effort. I'm feeling that now. But recently, on the comments of our TikTok and YouTube, you Chicanos are saying you're ready. You Chicanos are saying, what do we do next? How do I join? How do I get involved? At the end of this, you're going to be given those emails. I'm going to show you how to get involved. So I'm getting positive feedback right now. Right now, the Chicanos telling me, we know what's wrong. It's time for solutions. It's time to rise. And I'm loving it. But mean what you say and say what you mean. One of the things that I have is the flag, the American flag, and it's upside down. And I'm getting some comments, why is the flag upside down? You know, some Chicanos that served in the military, oh, why is my flag upside down? You should know. So an upside down American flag is a sign of distress. If soldiers were stranded on an island and they needed to show that they needed to be saved, they would put an upside down flag to show that they're in distress. SOS, emergency. That's what this means. And right now, the Chicano is in a time of distress. Today, we're being killed in broad daylight. Not just physically, but figuratively too. When you cry out for a movie that represents you, it doesn't exist. If you guys are looking for a show that tells your story, it doesn't exist in America today. The Chicano's in distress. We need help. But understand, Chicano, right now we're in a position to help ourselves. Right now, if we rose up, if we stood up, if we woke up, the spending power of the Chicano is in the multi-trillions. So we don't need help from nobody. We just need to help ourselves. And this goes back to what we first talked about in our first show, is self-hatred within the Chicano community. That the Chicano has become its own worst enemy. It's time to get out of that. It's time to stop. It's time to stop hating that person that you see in the mirror every morning. Because it goes out into the calle, goes out into the street. And it's hard to hide. You can't deny it when you're a Chicano in America today, because you are America's new slave. You do the jobs that nobody does. And some of you are getting paid for it, right? But you're still a slave. So the American flag, that's why it's upside down, Chicano. And if you want me to turn it right side up, wake up. Stand up. It's time. This is the Chicano Chronicles. I'm your host, Emiliano Villa. And I want to thank you for joining in and listening to what we have to say. But it doesn't count for nothing if you don't stand up. It doesn't count for nothing if you don't get what we're saying here and put it into action. It doesn't account for nothing if you don't understand that you need to stand up for your chavalos, for the next generation. Wake up, Chicano. Wake up, Chicana. The time has come, the walrus said, to talk of many things. And one of those things are whether Chicanos have wings.